everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Full Circle podcast. I'm your host, Gisselle Sainz, and today I really wanted to dive into a topic that's been ruminating in my mind lately, which is that of a circular economy and what it means in the context of sustainability, and also the feasibility of implementing it into our current economic frameworks gradually over time. And so it seems the more that I think about the idea of making a circular economy come to life, the more I find myself at odds with how to reform our current economic systems and business models. However, this is a discussion I wanted to reflect on today and just speak my thoughts out loud as I was diving into the research. And so first, I would like to begin by defining what even is a circular economy or sustainability for that matter. And so the Ellen MacArthur Foundation describes a circular economy as a system where materials never become waste and nature is regenerated. It explains that in a circular economy, products and materials are kept in circulation through processes like maintenance, reuse, refurbishment, remanufacture, recycling, and composting. And the circular economy tackles climate change and other global challenges like biodiversity loss, waste, and pollution. And it achieves this by decoupling economic activity from the consumption of finite resources. And additionally, since 1987, the United Nations Brundtland Commission has defined sustainability as a way to meet the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to also meet those needs. So, that being said, are the ideas of sustainability and a circular economy synonymous with one another? Well, not exactly. When we think about an economy, the main goal is usually to maximize profits and economic growth, right? Well, a circular economy has the same focus, but with a little bit of a twist. It takes a closed loop approach. So, what that means is that instead of letting materials go to waste and end up in landfills, the idea is to make sure everything we produce, use, and throw away gets reused in some way. And it's all about keeping resources in the system and giving them a second, third, or even fourth life, and so on and so forth. And on the other hand, when I think about the idea of sustainability, I think about the ultimate goal being how to conserve environmental and public well being for endless generations to come. And in that sense, I would say that the concepts of a circular economy and sustainability certainly do complement one another, but their call to action are not exactly motivated by the same reasons. And this got me thinking about a discussion we had in our program's Engineering and the Health of the Planet class. We debated whether the economy and environmental well being can really thrive together or if they're always going to be at odds, whether one can only succeed at the expense of the other one. And at initial thought, the feud between both frameworks makes sense, right? The economy tends to thrive when we focus on maximizing profits, but then that often means over extracting resources from the earth, which causes degradation of our lands. And then those resources eventually turn into massive, ever-growing piles of waste in landfills, which unfortunately also leads to environmental damage. And then when we think about it on the flip side, conserving the environment prioritizes ecosystem health and public well-being, and it's all about keeping our world as pristine as possible, ensuring that our planet and everything we rely on to survive stays intact for generations to come. However, even I was able to find flaws in this kind of mentality when researching about sewage spills in Southern California. And this is a part of my capstone project, and it turns out that the economy often does rely on environmental well-being in order to thrive. And the factors which interconnect these two ideas, at least within the context of sewage spills, is public health and recreational revenue. So, to explain, when people get sick from being exposed to contaminated waters, it leads to productivity losses in the economy because it increases the amount of sick days people request off work. In fact, according to a study from 2019, Californians suffer productivity losses in the amount of 3.56 million sick leaves per year due to recreational beach water pollution. And this is attributed to an estimated 1 million cases of gastrointestinal illnesses that occur annually due to swimming in polluted coastal waters in the Los Angeles and Orange County. And this amounts to an economic loss of $21 million every single year. And furthermore, when beaches close due to sewage spills, California experiences financial losses as people stop visiting, and this often is a loss from like the entrance fees, the parking fees, and just recreational services in general. All of those decrease. We don't earn any of that money, so obviously we're going to experience economic losses as a whole. And while this tangent is not directly related to the topic of the circular economy, it serves as proof that sustainability and the economy are capable of thriving together. And since the quality of the environment which surrounds us, the place we call home, is so integral to our health and survival, the economic frameworks which rely on us to generate money would crumble apart if we lost our ability to work. After all, what good is money if we are struggling to stay alive in a polluted world? It's not, right? That's where a circular economy comes in. It's how sustainability and economic growth come together and compromise on both of their desired outcomes. Now, I love Seth Galerich's analogy of an interconnected, harmonious ecosystem to that of a circular economy. He explains that trees make only as much food as they need by using the sun as an infinite resource, and it then helps provide food and habitat for organisms like carpenter ants and woodpeckers. Then, when organisms in nature poop, other organisms like dung beetles, for example, they break down what we consider to be a disgusting waste product into nutrients for soils, aka raw materials for brand new life, like more trees. And if such closed loop systems can exist in a natural world, why can't we as a society, with our infinite knowledge and advancing innovation, come up with similar interconnected cycles and relationships that can help us recycle our waste? How have we gotten ourselves into this environmental crisis without what seems to be no way out of being buried alive by our own used materials? I often believe that when it comes to waste or trash, people seem to not want to talk or be involved in subjects or projects that, well, disgust us, right? We call our used products trash when we throw it away rather than referring to it as its potential. They're materials that can be used again in our economy, societal structures, and necessities. And this is what dung beetles see in poop as they play their role in ecosystems as accordingly to benefit themselves and the world around them. And so, in nature, when organisms fail to adapt or perform their respective roles within ecosystems, they either go extinct or we observe some form of disruption, right? Like an unfavorable shift within the food chain and populations. So, similarly, unless we can learn to adapt to our own growing need to manage waste fully so that it no longer burdens us and risks our lives, we can either go extinct or experience what we are currently going through, which is environmental injustices, where some people in our global society must suffer the consequences of improper waste management more than others who are likely ignorant to these consequences that we are all guilty of playing a role in. And the role of a dung beetle isn't exactly glamorous, and honestly, neither are the roles of the people who work in waste collection and management. But, here's the thing, they're absolutely essential. And as a society, we've come so far, constantly advancing and reaching new heights in innovation and how we live, at least in the more privileged parts of the world. Yet somehow we still struggle to give enough attention to something as basic but critical as managing our waste. And that being said, because of how we are able to make so many advancements like flying to the moon, building self-driving cars, and inventing vaccines that can literally save millions of lives, I know for a fact that effective reformation of how we handle our waste is possible. It may take time and a change in current business models, production, and technology, and breaking down all of our used materials, not trash, but materials, into something that we continue to value and make use of in our lives. But I know that it can happen. So I guess the big takeaway for me here is that in a world where we celebrate things like trees and woodpeckers for their role in creating useful resources like food or even making holes for other creatures to live in, we should start thinking more like dung beetles, right? And that sounds crazy, but I know waste isn't exactly glamorous and it's something most people avoid talking about, but it's the people in our world who do the hard work of breaking down and managing the waste who aren't given nearly enough credit, to be honest. And honestly, as a society, we should all care a lot more about helping to solve this waste problem before it ends up destroying us. Thank you for listening to the Full Circle podcast. Will there be another episode? Stay tuned to find out. But until then, I hope this inspired you to face our issues surrounding our quote unquote trash and poop problem like sewage more bravely and more head on.